our video tutorial for this H-Style Cat Harness that you can see Melba wearing here. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please like, share and subscribe, and hope to catch you soon. Thanks, bye. Okay, so for this project you'll need some fine weight yarn. Basically you can use anything that you can crochet, but it needs to be pretty fine weight. So I've got this one here. I believe it's a 100% polyester, but if you've got any macrame cord or a fine paracord would also be fine. A cotton would be fine, cotton blend. So something that's got a bit of tensile strength to it and that's in a fine weight. You'll need a crochet hook that corresponds to your yarn, and I'm using 2.5 millimeters today. You'll need some plastic release clasps, and I've got these two here that are 1 centimeter across. You could use two different sizes, one smaller one for the neckband, a larger one for the belly band if you wanted to. I've got these two the same size, so I'm going to use those today. You'll need a D-ring or an O-ring as a leash attachment. So I've got this one here, it's 25 millimeters across. You could use one that's smaller, but you still want it to be quite sturdy, and you can use a D-ring or an O-ring would also be fine, although probably a D-ring is better. Now, yeah, just make sure that whatever you use, it's you know, pretty sturdy and you're going to withstand the forces that would be placed on a leash. You'll need a darning needle with a sharp point to weave in your ends. So this one's got a quite sharp point on it. Let's see if yes. So you'll need quite a sharp point. You'll need some scissors to snip your ends. And you'll need a tape measure to take some measurements from your cat. So you'll need specifically the chest measurement behind the front legs and the neck circumference. You may also want a length from the back of the neck down to where it will sit around the belly. So it might be, if you've got a cat that's a bit out of normal proportions, you know, in inverted commas, you may want to take that measurement that you'll have between the two rings, one ring that's around the belly and one ring that's around the neck. Okay, so to make this H-style harness, just this very basic harness style here, you'll need to know how to slip knot onto your hook, how to create a chain, how to single crochet, how to attach to this hardware, and I'll show you how to do that. We reinforce these areas here. You'll need to know how to do a little bit of hand stitching and weaving in your ends. So it is definitely beginner friendly. There's a couple of places where it can be a little bit fiddly, especially if you're going to do this pattern that I've done here. So there's a crisscross pattern that I've done in all parts of it, and that's only optional. You don't have to do this crisscross pattern. For me, it adds just a little bit of extra tensile strength, since there's the you know, a cross thing happening. But yeah, you don't have to. You could just do this whole thing in single crochets if you wanted to. It would still be, you know, nice and strong. So I think that's pretty much it, and let's get started. Okay, to get started, slip knot onto your hook. And then we're going to start with the neckband, and we're going to attach the clasp at this point here. So make sure that with your clasp, make sure that you've got the back of the clasp facing you. Okay? So, and yeah, so you've got the back of the clasp facing you. So then place your working end over top of the clasp, and we're going to cast onto the clasp. Okay, it's basically like we're using the hole here as a stitch. Okay, so insert your, oops, we just pull that down. So insert your hook into the clasp, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through both loops. Okay, now for this point here, you want to make sure that your work is really nice and firm. Okay, so pull as tight as you can, and then do that 3 more times. So I'm going to show you a pattern that works with 4 stitches. Well, it will actually work with 4 or 7. The number that you cast on here will depend on the size of the clasp that you've got. I'm going to assume that at least for the neck clasp, most of you have a size that will, work with 4 stitches. It will also depend, of course, on the cord that you're using, the yarn that you're using, the hook that you're using, etc. So there's my 4 stitches onto the clasp. So we're going to basically just repeat that row. We want to reinforce this area here. Chain 1 and turn. And then what we want to do is, as neatly as we can, we want to work over the stitches below. So it's not vital that you get them on top of each other, but if you can, it's a little bit neater. So just do the same thing. Insert in your hook, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through both. So like I said, if you can center them over the one below, then it's going to just look slightly neater. Go ahead, do your second one. And try to get that over top of the one below. And again. And then for your last one, oops. So it's a little bit fiddly down here. But you want to get this area nice and secure. Okay, so pull everything tight. Now, if you've got a different size clasp to me, you can use a different number of stitches. So the pattern I'm going to show you will work with either 4 or 7 stitches. And I'm going to assume that you won't be going above 7 stitches. But so I'm going to show you this pattern, and it will be using these 4 stitches. If you're using a different number of stitches that's not 7, you won't be able to do this pattern. So bear with me a moment, and I'm going to show you this pattern, and then we'll talk about what to do if you're using a different number of stitches. So yarn over and chain 1. So now we're going to work into this first stitch, single crochet. So you've got 4 stitches. Working a single crochet into the 4th stitch, and if you need to do any adjustments there, please do. I just need to pull that onto the edge of the clasp a little. Okay, so now we're going to start a repeating pattern. We're going to skip this 2nd stitch, and then we're going to single crochet into the 3rd. Now, because you've pulled so tight, this will be a bit fiddly, but you need to pull tight to make them secure. So you're just going to have to do the best you can with getting these stitches in, especially down this bottom bit. Okay, so you've skipped the 2nd stitch and worked into the 3rd stitch. Now you're going to go back and find the 2nd stitch and work into that. Okay, so you're creating this little crisscross through the center that's going to add a little bit of extra strength. And then you'll just single crochet into the last stitch, the 4th stitch. Okay, now if you've got a different number of stitches to either 4 or 7, and or you don't want to do this fiddly crossover stitch through the center, then you'll just single crochet 1 in each stitch, okay, without doing the cross. But if you're doing this little bit of extra strength in the pattern like I am here, then come with me. So chain 1, single crochet into that 1st stitch, and it'll be, like I said, it'll be a bit fiddly down at this beginning bit, and it'll take you a little while just to get the hang of finding that 2nd stitch. Skip the 2nd stitch, single crochet into the 3rd, go back to the 2nd stitch. Now I've done this so many times that it's just sort of second nature to me where that 2nd stitch is, and that's my 2nd stitch there. I don't know if you can see it, but it'll take you just a little bit to get used to finding it. Okay, so then I'm going to go back into that 2nd stitch. So if you can persevere and just get used to it, then please do. Otherwise, if it's just too much, just do single crochets into each stitch. And just make sure with this last stitch that you get both loops. sometimes it can flip over onto the other side. So just make sure you get both loops. Okay, so basically that's all we're going to do. Is either this repeating pattern or just your single crochets. If you feel comfortable enough with how strong just your single crochets are going to be, and that's, you know, it's still really strong. I just like to add this little bit of extra tensile strength, forces, you know, crisscrossing across down through the center. Okay, so just some final time, chain 1, single crochet into the first stitch, single crochet into the third stitch, come back into the second stitch, and then come across to the fourth stitch. So if you've got 7 stitches, the pattern would be single crochet in the first, the third, then the second, then the fourth, then the sixth, so you'll jump the fourth, jump the fifth, then you'll go back into the fifth, and then you'll go into the seventh. Okay, so you'll have 2 crisscrosses. Chain 1 and turn. So you're just going to continue this, either this pattern if you're doing this pattern with me, or you'll just be doing your single crochets 1 into each stitch. Okay, so that's it. That's entirely up to you. So continue on, and I'll meet you once I'm at the circumference that I need for Melba's neck. Now just remember that you'll need to take into account the clasp as well. Okay, so yeah, just making sure that when you include your measurement, when you make your measurement, you're including the clasp. So continue on, and I'll meet you when I'm at the length I need for Melba. Okay, so I've done my neckband. Now I'm just going to check the length that I've got there. So obviously with these, because you can undo them and do them back up, you want this to fit nice and snugly. Now the rule for fitting harnesses and collars, that type of thing, is that you can place one finger underneath, so the width of one finger underneath the between the cat and the collar, or the, whatever it is. So you want it to be Melba's neck circumference with a good fit, a snug fit but not too tight, is about 23.5. So I'm getting really close. I might just do one more row here, just to allow that little bit extra. But I think that I'm getting really close there. So just make sure that you're fitting this well. Anything like this needs to fit pretty much perfectly. Otherwise, there's a much greater chance of escape. So make sure that it's fitted properly. Make sure you can only fit that one finger in between the cat and the harness. Okay, so now we're going to attach the work to this other end of the clasp. Okay, so to attach this other end of the clasp, turn it so it's sitting with the front facing you. Okay, so the front of the clasp facing you, and line up your work with the edge of the clasp. And how we're going to do this one is, once again, it's a little bit fiddly, but you just have to do the best you can to make this as secure as you can. So chain 1 first, and then the difference with this side is that we have to go through the stitch as well as through the clasp. So insert your hook into that first stitch, then into the clasp, yarn over, pull through. Make sure you're pulling through the clasp and the stitch, and pull that tight. So just make sure that you're pulling tight, and then go along to the next one. Insert your hook, insert through the clasp, yarn over, pull through both, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And do that. Now just make sure you're getting that as tight as you possibly can, and go along and do the next 2 stitches as well. And what I do is I just move it up and then I pull it tight, and then the last one, oops, and like I said, it's a little bit fiddly, but get in there the best you can. And that's 4. Now to reinforce this side, we have to do something a little bit different. So chain 1, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the clasp and out the other side. So come up, again this is a little bit fiddly, see I'm coming up through the other side there, and then I'm going to do my single crochet over top like that. Okay, do that again. So go through the clasp, through, come up as best you can up through the bottom of your band, and single crochet, and then pull as tight as you can. So we're just reinforcing it on this side in a slightly different way. So in again, come up under that 3rd stitch. So I'm coming up. You have to sort of maneuver around to get up there. Pull through. Oops, I've got 2 stitches there. There we go. And then one more. Come through and up through. So do the best you can with this, especially if you've never done this before. It might just take a little bit of time to get used to. Now don't be scared to unpick if you need to, because obviously you want this to be as secure as you can possibly get it. Okay, so there's that done, and you'll see on the other side it looks slightly different to the previous side, but it's, you know, it's pretty close. And then yarn over, pull through, and pull through your loop and snip off your end. Okay, so there you've got your neckband. Now we're going to weave in these tail ends, and you'll need quite a sharp, fine needle to do this. So thread your needle, and then you're going to come under here. So this is the underside of the clasp. So come in and weave through all of those loops if you can, right through to the other side. I've got slippery hands, it's going to be hard to get through. There we go. So you want to make this nice and secure, as I've been saying all along. So pull that nice and tight. And then what I tend to do is I go back. I don't go back through exactly the same place. I come over a loop and then I go back and go all the way through. I'll just push that on there to get that through. So that's going to be a bit hard for me to get through. I'm going to pause for a moment and I'm going to get through my needle through here, so you're not just watching me struggling on screen. So I'm going to get that through and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm through. So this also gives you a little bit of opportunity to clean up this bottom end a little bit. So you can pull it a little bit tighter and see how it moves sort of everything into the center of the clasp. Just tidies that up a little bit. Now I would go through at least 3 times. So again, don't go back exactly through where you've just come from. Go through a different place, and I'm going to pause again and get that needle through. Okay, so I've done all I want to do there. So I've been through it back and forth 4 times, and then I'm just going to move away from this area now, and I'm just going to weave it into one of the rows above, just to hold on to that tail end. I'm going to get that through. I think I'll oh no, there we go. I think I'm through. So yes, a bit of patience required with this bit. You've got to get that through. But yeah, a rubber glove is super helpful to get that through. And then I will snip off that end. And then I'm going to weave in the opposite end. And basically what you're going to just repeat this process for your belly band, and just make it to the circumference that you need for your belly band. Now, if you're using a different size clasp for your belly band, you can, you can do that, what I was talking about at the beginning, do that 7-stitch pattern if you want to. I've actually got some larger clasps too, so maybe I can show you quickly. I'm not going to make the whole harness with the larger clasp, but maybe I can show you quickly how to do this pattern with seven stitches. Yeah, otherwise just go ahead and make your belly band and make it to the circumference of, so you want this to sit just behind the cat's front legs, okay? So don't have it sitting too far back. You want it quite snug up against the back legs, but obviously not too tight, and around the ribs, just behind the back legs. So take that circumference and make sure that you've got a good fit, but follow the exact same pattern as you've done for this one, especially if you're using the same size clasp as your neckband. If you're using a different size clasp, a larger one, you can try that 7-stitch pattern that I was talking about at the beginning, and I will actually go and get a larger clasp and I'll show you how to do that. Otherwise, if you don't want to do, and you're not doing this pattern, you just do your single crochets as before with however many stitches you need. So go ahead and make your belly band. I'm not going to do that on camera because it's just an exact repeat of this. Other than I'll be back shortly, I'll go and get a larger clasp and I'll show you how to do the 7 stitches if you want a larger clasp for your belly band. But you should, this width should be fine for the belly strap as well. You don't need to go larger. This should be fine. Anyway, I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so just quickly here, I've got this larger clasp here, which I believe is 25 millimeters here, this width. So I'll show you how to do that 7-stitch pattern. So we'll just yarn over and make a slip knot as you did before. Now we'll just attach it in exactly the same way. So just have the back side facing you, put the working end over the clasp, and then just do as you did before. So pull up through those 2 loops, make sure everything's nice and tight. Now I'm not going to go ahead and make it super neat because I'm not going to continue with this. This is just to show you the 7-stitch pattern. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. Now if you wanted to go more than that, you probably could. Yeah, you could go to 9, you could go to 10 as well if you wanted to. I've got plenty of room on this massive clasp. It's too big really for the belly clasp, although it's doable, but it's pretty big. So let's go to 10. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and last one 10. So to do that repeating pattern, I'm not going to reinforce this. Like I said, I'm not going to continue here. So you chain your 1, put your single crochet into that first stitch, jump the second stitch, go into the third, come back into the second, jump across to the fourth and single crochet, and then jump across to the 6th, so skip the 5th, which is, yes, that one. So skip the 5th for now, go into the 6th, come back into the 5th. Oh, my hands are getting really slippery now because it's super hot here today, so forgive me that I'm fighting with this a little bit. Now go into the so what have we skipped? Yep, go into the 7th. So this would be where you would stop if you were doing just 7 stitches. And then you will, of course, go into the 9th. I won't continue now because I'm sort of struggling with it. But so then you'd go into the 9th, back into the 8th, and then finish off in the 10th. And then you would continue repeating that pattern just as you did for the smaller band, but you'll just have 3 areas of crisscross through the middle rather than just the one. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense if you're trying to adjust this for a different size clasp. So I'm going to go ahead and make my belly band. I'm going to make it using the, I'm going to make it exactly the same as this, but obviously the different circumference, and I'll meet you once I've done that. Okay, so I've finished my 2 rings. So I've got the smaller one for the neck band and the larger one for around the belly. So now for this basic H-style harness, what we've got to do is obviously join these 2 together. So how we're going to do that will depend a bit on what D-ring you've got. So as you know, I've got this one here, which is 2.5 centimeters across. So what's best is that you fill the whole space of your D-ring with crochet. So if you've got a smaller D-ring than this, then you won't need as many stitches. But for this one, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to continue with that same pattern. So let me just move those out the way for a minute. So I'm going to continue with that crisscross pattern, and I'm going to accommodate my D-ring. Okay, so I'll show you how we'll do that. So slip knot onto your hook as before, and then you'll have to work out how many stitches you need to fill up your D-ring, and for me it's 10. Which means, if you remember from my explanations previously, I can still make that crisscross pattern with 10 stitches. So if you're just doing single crochet, not the crisscross pattern, just go ahead and fill your D-ring with the number of stitches you need. Otherwise, if you're coming with me and want to do the crisscross pattern, you'll need either 4, 7, 10 or 13. Okay, if you've got more than 13, you know, yeah, you just add 3 each time to accommodate the pattern. So I'm going to do 10 because I know that fills my my D-ring. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, chain 1 is your turning chain. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work into the 3rd loop of my chain just because it's going to make it a little bit easier later on. You don't have to do this, but for me it just makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to flip over my chain. You see at the front you've got the V's, and if you flip it over you've got this back loop. So I'm going to, or this 3rd loop. So I'm going to actually work into this 3rd loop. So 2nd chain from the hook, because you've chained 1, do your single crochet. Now if you're just single crocheting all along, just go ahead and do that. Otherwise you'll come back to the pattern, skipping that 2nd stitch, working into the 3rd, or 2nd chain, working into the 3rd. Well, actually it's technically the 4th, but you know what I mean. And then coming back into the, now this is where it'll get a little bit tricky. Do the best you can, coming back into the 2nd chain, into the 4th chain, then into the 6th, then back into the 5th, and then into the 7th, I'll go into the 9th, one more crisscross, into the 9th, back into the 8th, and then finally last one into the 10th. So if you've got 7 stitches, you won't do that last crisscross. If you've got 13, you'll do some extra ones. And yeah, so there's the start of my center band, my joining band between the two circles that I've got. So this is pretty much perfect for my D-ring, as you can see there. So you want the D-ring to hold quite firmly, and it's best if you fill the whole D-ring up with stitches. So from here, chain 1, and you're just going to work backwards and forwards for a few more rows. So crisscrossing or not. And I'll keep going. So go for about another 5 or 6 rows, and I'll meet you back here soon, because what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this, once we get a little bit of length, we're going to wrap that around we're going to wrap it around the what am I trying to say, the belly band, and then we're going to secure the D-ring then. So don't go too far, just go long enough so you can wrap this part, the part that you're making now, around the width of your belly band, and no more than that, because we're actually going to join that loop together. So you'll see what I mean. So go for another, let's say 5 or 6 rows, and just enough to wrap around the width of your belly band, and I'll see you soon. Okay, so I've done my little strip there, and I've put my D-ring into it just to make sure that that's a good width, but also that's how we're going to crochet it from now. So I'm going to place my belly band in there, and so just at the center approximately. Put my hook back in. So we're just going to continue working as we were, so either the cross pattern or single crochets, but we're going to work into both sides. So find the first, and this is why I did the bottom part into that third loop, because it just makes it a little bit easier to see where the stitches are. So there's the first one on this side, the first one on the other side, and then I'm just going to do my single crochet through both of them and over top of the band, and then I'm going to continue my crisscross pattern. And this again is where it can get a little bit tricky, but do the best you can. You could, if it's just getting too much and you just can't tell which stitch is which, you can just do this you can just do this part with just single crochets. I'm going to continue with my pattern though. I'm going to persevere. So it might just be a little bit more tricky. And then into stitch number 4. So through, let's just make sure I've got both. Yep, through both sides. So I'm just going to continue doing that all the way along. And so you can basically see what's happening is that we've got the band in there, and then we're just going to continue making this center band as normal until we reach the other end. So I'll just continue a little bit further, and sorry for all the noise that's going on in the background. If you can hear that, Melba's chasing a fly. And come back. So that doubling back can be a little bit tricky. So, you know, like I said, if you want to just do this row as single crochets along, then, you know, there's no problem with doing that at all. And this is stitch number 7. I think I might be one too far along. Yeah, there. There we go. And then my final crisscross. Come back, across to the other side, and then my final stitch. So once again, make sure these stitches are pulled relatively tight. And there's my last stitch. So now we've attached the band, the belly band, to the center point, or the center strap. So that will slide a little, so you can slide it along if you're not exactly at halfway. And then you're just going to continue as before. So whether you're doing just single crochets or whether you're doing your crisscross pattern, just continue for as long as you need to until you're ready to join the neckband. So this width is, you know, relatively standard for most cats, but because none of this is adjustable, it's a good idea to take that measurement on your cat. So the distance that you want from the neckband to the belly band, just check that out on your cat. So you'll go for that distance plus enough to wrap over the neckband. So we're going to wrap it in the same way around this neckband. So continue on, and I'll keep going for the length that I need, and I'll see you soon. Okay, so I've made the length that I think I'm going to need. So you obviously want to do that little bit extra that allows you to wrap it around the neckband. So for me, I've got 11 centimeters there to just the end here. Obviously, I've got extra because I've wrapped it around, but for now, I've got 11 centimeters, and that's going to be fine for Melba. I've checked it out on her. So now what we have to do is attach the neckband. So make sure that you've got both of your clasps the right way. Okay, so just check the base one, and then what you're going to have to do with this is we're going to actually sew it. We're going to have to sew this bit. So just make sure that you've got your length, and then I'm just going to yarn over and pull through, and I'm going to pull through a good length of tail so I can sew the parts together. So let's just pull that out. Okay, so now find approximately the center of your neckband, because obviously these are going to slide. These can slide a little bit, so you don't have to be exactly perfect as you're doing this. So just fold that over and get it as relatively snugly in there. And we're going to sew that. So we're going to sew this part down. Okay. Okay. So I've threaded my needle there, and so I've got. So just make sure that this is, it's nice and secure in there. So you want it pretty well snug. So don't have this too loose, okay? Just to exaggerate it, don't have that too loose. Try and get that nice and snug up in there. So you can move it, but it's nice and snug. So it's going to stay pretty well in there. It's not going to move around too much. And now you're just going to basically sew this part into the main part of this central band. So go ahead and do that. So you just work it into, try not to go too far through. Okay, try to just pick up a few loops and then work up into the stitch, and perhaps into each stitch work a couple of times. Okay, so once again you want this to be nice and secure. So what I would do is I would work into each stitch, but I would work a couple of times into each stitch. Oops, that tail out the way. So go ahead and complete your sewing, working into the back, up into the stitches, making sure it's nice and secure. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to finish this off camera, And then we're pretty much done. It'll just be a matter of weaving in our ends from there, and then we're pretty much done. So I'll meet you as soon as I've done this sewing part here. Okay, so I've sewn across there as neatly as I can, but also as securely as I can. And then I'm just going to weave in my end through my stitches there. And then you'll do the same with your bottom end, and you're done. So yeah, just like I said, just weave in those ends into your work, and once again make those nice and secure. And I'm going to finish that off camera, but let's just get this first one through. So yeah, just weave your end in, and then you're done. So I'll finish that off camera. Okay, so well done. I've woven in my ends there, and now I've got my harness all finished. So well done. So if you can, please send along some photos to show me what you've come up with, how your harness has turned out. I would love to see those. So send them along to catventurous.community@gmail.com, or you can tag us on social media at catventurous.crochet. So thanks very much for joining us, and hope to catch you soon. Thanks. Bye. Thank you. Yeah.
She doesn't sound very happy.
No, she doesn't really like recording. Okay, good girl. Thanks, Melba.